You know, guys, whenever there's a slow period of time, whenever there's slow days here on COD, which is really funny that there even is some right now because the season just dropped a few days ago and people are already getting bored and content creators have already run out of things to talk about because, well, this season offered us almost absolutely nothing. I like to look back and reminisce on some things that just didn't age well. Here on the channel, the Scatmaster has some takes that always age like fine wine. My predictions have been on point, but other people's predictions, not so much. This comes from the MW2 Ghost. If you know who this is, he said this last year in 2022. The game is looking remarkably polished considering it's only February. I am guilty of hyping up last year's COD and then not playing it a month or so after release. That stops. I will say though, I am genuinely positive for MW 2019 Part 2 this year. I'll die on this hill. Screenshot away. And screenshot the Scatmaster did. One of the worst tweets I've ever seen in my life, and we've seen some pretty bad ones here on the channel. But look guys, today's video has nothing to do with that. I mean, it kind of does, but what I was really trying to get at in today's video, I want people to really understand where I come from when I say this statement, because some people look at me funny and think that I'm just hating for views or just throwing this term out loosely. Guys, here on the channel, the Scatmaster is very, very well calculated in what he says, alright? I mean, guys, the vocabulary here on the channel is second to none. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019 Part 2 is the worst Call of Duty in history, all off of a technicality. I'm not saying this game is horrible top to bottom, it's the worst Call of Duty in history in terms of absolutely everything, because like I've said before, there are a few things that this game does right. There are a few things that I actually do enjoy about this game, ranked play being one of them. And let me just say this very quickly, because I know a lot of people think it's a skill issue, or some people think that I'm really bad at Call of Duty and that's why I hate on the game. Guys, the Scatmaster is immune to that issue, alright? If you want proof, look at the last 2 months of gameplays that I've posted on this channel. Like I've told you guys, I don't really spend that much time playing the game, but here on ranked play, I'm on like a pretty big streak, and this is just me showcasing exactly what the Scatmaster does to gooch lickers, alright? But that's besides the point, guys. This is the worst Call of Duty in history in terms of content. Not in terms of gameplay necessarily, because I've said the gameplay is alright, it's pretty good. On the channel, I've even said, you know what, some of these maps I think are way better than MW 2019's maps, like Azure Cave and Piccadilly and Ramaza and good God, man, some of those maps are just dumps of juice gooch sweat. But in this game, with the exception of Tarak and Border Crossing, some of the maps aren't that bad. The issue has always been, and I've said this since before the launch, there used to be a leak of exactly what I'm talking about right now. And when I mentioned it, and I told people, you know what, this might be a big problem going into MW 2019, considering the content flow, I mean, you go back to that video, the Scatmaster was 1v200ing everybody. I've talked about this huge drought in content for multiple years, guys. I've been talking about this specific issue since seasonal content became a thing back in MW 2019. It's only now, 4 years later, that people are realizing that, you know what, this actually is an issue. And it's gotten to the point where it's not even an issue that's annoying. It's an issue that is completely ruining and destroying this game. It is killing the game's player count. Look, to the gooch lickers, if the game is so wonderful, if the gameplay is that good, if the core mechanics of the game are all on point, and Infinity Ward hasn't made a single bad mistake in their decision making for this game, why is it that this game experienced almost a 75% player base drop? Can anybody explain that to me? Because I guarantee you, yeah, some people were fed up with SBMM, some people just didn't like the game top to bottom, and that's their opinion, but I can guarantee you the majority of those players left because the game got boring. Because there was nothing to do in the game anymore. After you do certain things, after you play Tarak and Border Crossing 45 times every single goddamn day, because there's only like 10 maps in the game gets boring. Then came along Season 2, and the news started coming in that there was only going to be 2 maps. Alright, I've talked about this a lot, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I want to bring up this tweet that comes from the Scat Maestro himself. And I showed this before, but whenever all of these leaks started coming out about MW2 Season 2, this is what I set the standard to. If this game didn't meet those standards or those requirements, this game would be named the worst COD in history. For Season 2, I said we needed 3+ maps minimum, not including castle or museum if those rumors are true. And we are technically getting 3 maps, but again, I'm not including dome or museum in that. Overhaul the UI and the perks. They kind of overhauled the UI a little bit, the perks not so much. Buff the movement. I think they did in Warzone. Here in the multiplayer, of course, they did nothing. Less in SBMM. There's reports that it's even gotten worse. I'm gonna skip this next point and come back to it. Give us good earnable content and cosmetics. And in ranked play, you can actually earn your own shit. That's something I've been wanting for a very long time. Now, I gotta thank Treyarch for that. Infinity Ward had absolutely fucking nothing to do with it, so thanks Treyarch. But let me bring this back and listen to this part very clearly. Make this a 2-month season max. Why did the Scadmaster say this, guys? You guys know how I feel about seasonal content, and I'm trying to hit this point on the head where if the seasons are too long and they're obviously being drip fed because Infinity Ward just sucks at their job, I guess, make the seasons shorter because people are gonna get burnt out extremely quickly. People are gonna get bored extremely quickly. If you start cutting down these seasons just a little bit, it's gonna make a difference. And look, guys, I'm not gonna come out here and say, oh, the devs need to listen to me, or the devs listen to me when I said this. I haven't seen very many people on Twitter, on Reddit, on YouTube. I haven't seen any content creators talk about how these seasons are too long. Now, if I'm mistaken, my bad, but I just haven't seen it. I talked about it because that is something that I truly think is detrimental to this game, and you guys saw what I said. This new season needs to be 2 months maximum. Anything more than that is drawn out too much. Guys, when this season came out, Charlie Intel tweeted this out, and I didn't see many people talk about this. The Battle Pass timer in-game has updated to state Season 2 is 55 days long. Right now, I'm looking at it, it's 51 days remaining, which would put Season 3 to start at around April 12th. Now, isn't that some shit, guys? It's almost like, you know, I say bad things about the game, I'm very critical, but sometimes the things I say would actually benefit the longevity and the livelihood of this game. Now, don't get me wrong, 55 days is still too goddamn long. It's less than 2 months, which I said we needed to do, but it's still too goddamn long. If it were up to me, these seasons would be like 40 days long maximum, with a reloaded update included. But simply put, Call of Duty hasn't done that the last couple of years, huh? No, we've seen seasons drag up to 3 months long. 2.5 months, some 3 months. Some of these seasons have been longer than 3 months. We've seen seasons get completely canceled. We've seen a lot of these seasons only include 2 goddamn maps. This whole system, top to bottom, simply doesn't work. We had a couple of good stints in there back in MW 2019, and in Cold War, I think they did a much better job with it. But even some of the best seasons that we've seen since MW 2019, I still don't think match up to what we used to get with DLC map packs. And I know we gotta pay for those, and I know some people don't want to pay at all, but the fact of the matter is, the reality is, if we continue with this seasonal content bullshit that we've been doing for the last couple of years, not only is it gonna get worse, but if anything, people are gonna start getting bored a lot quicker than they used to. People stopped playing MW 2019 by Season 2 because the game simply sucked until that point where Warzone came in and saved it, and then people were completely captivated by that. But in Cold War, I think people started lasting up to like Season 3 or 4, maybe Season 5, which is kind of respectable. In Vanguard, people were dipping by like Season 3. Here in MW 2019 Part 2, people dropped off midway through Season 1. That's absolutely pathetic. And the game launched early. The seasons are too long, and you're seeing the consequences. You're seeing the negative impact that it has on the game. If people are this bored, then yes, 100%, I'm gonna say this is the worst Call of Duty in history in terms of content. We only have 12 goddamn maps so far, and it's been almost 4 months. By Season 1, Cold War had 12 maps. And that game launched with like 7 or 8 maps. Guys, Vanguard was god-awful, but that game launched with 16 maps. Look guys, I can't speak for all the content creators out there, but for myself specifically, anytime I make a harsh, critical statement about a COD, I keep my word. I don't switch up. I still think MW 2019 through Vanguard are the bottom 3 Call of Duties of all time. And no, nostalgia will never play a factor in this. I don't switch up. I still think Ghost is dog shit from back in the day, and I know people disagree, but at least we can agree to disagree. Here in MW 2019 Part 2, I know people are gonna look at me funny when I say this. It's the worst Call of Duty in history on a technicality that it has the worst content we've ever seen in COD because there's such a lack of it. Yes, we're getting a 3rd map because we pressured the devs, but it shouldn't have ever gotten to this point. And if you want to be completely honest, that 1 extra map It's bullshit to me. And because we're at season 2 and it's almost 4 months into the game's life cycle, and by month 5 or 6, we're only gonna have 13 maps in this goddamn game, it is the worst Call of Duty in history based on the fact it lacks so much content. But that's gonna do it for me today, guys. I'm curious to know what you guys think about this. Where do you think MW 2019 Part 2 lands in your top or bottom 10 CODs of all time? Let me know down in the comments below, and if you enjoyed today's video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, hit the bell notifications to stay up to date with my newest videos, and yeah guys, it's been the boy Fooly. Have yourselves a good one. I'm out of here. Toodles. It's been a